right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order. If you would join us for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please pray with me if you'd like to. Dear Lord, we come before you today with grateful hearts as we gather to serve the people of St. Lucie County. We ask for your wisdom and guidance in all decisions made here today. Lord, bless our commissioners, our county employees, and our residents. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and we are going to recess from our regular meeting and go into our special district meetings. Commissioner Classy, I'll start with you, please.
We'll go ahead and start as the Erosion Control Board. We'll come to order now. At this time, if anybody has any general public comment for the Erosion Control Board, please come up to the podium. Seeing no one moving, we'll go ahead and close public comment and move on to the approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion for the approval of the November 4th and November 18, 2025 minutes?
Motion to approve November 4th and the 19th minutes. 18th, excuse me.
I'm sorry, sir. Are you on erosion or environmental?
Environmental.
My apologies. We heard erosion.
Yeah, it's pretty sad.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. That's the end of the agenda. We will adjourn. And now we will come to order as the Erosion Control District. If there are any public comments for the Erosion Control District, please come up to the podium. Seeing no movement, we will close the public comment for the Erosion Control District. And before we get to the approval of the minutes, I just wanted to give three brief updates for three projects. First project is the CSRM project. That's the South County Federal Dredging Project. It's expected to wrap up by March 9th. And then the Fort Pierce Jetty project is expected to mobilize on March 9th and start pumping sand by March 11th. Their emergency truck haul is expected to wrap up by the end of this week. So we'll move into the approval of the minutes for the Erosion District meeting of January 27th this time. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. At this time, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. We have one item on the regular agenda for work authorization number 3, Taylor Engineering for the Fort Pierce Shore Protection Project. I do not believe we have a presentation. Is there any motion for approval on this?
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We are adjourned.
Commissioner Lowry?
Okay, come together as the Mosquito Control District. First item of business is public comment. If there's anyone that wishes to address the board at this time, please come forward. Seeing how we have no movement, we will move on to approval of the minutes from January 27th, I'm sorry. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Nothing on consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. There are no items on regular agenda. Motion to approve to adjourn, actually.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Just, I don't know if I do the update first before I move on. As far as mosquito control goes, Government Relations sent me an email last week that the bill has moved out of the House unanimously, and now it's moved on to Florida Senate. So now after this, we're waiting for the governor to sign after the Senate approval, and then it'll go to referendum. So hopefully, if all goes well, we'll see it on the ballot in November. I got to visit mosquito control last week. kudos to Roger and his staff for doing such an incredible job. Very informational. I learned a lot about mosquito control, and you guys do a fantastic job, so thank you. Okay, moving on to the Sustainability District agenda. We come together as a Sustainability District. This first item of business is public comment. Is there anyone that wishes to address the board at this time? Moving on, seeing how there's no movement there. Approval of minutes from November 4th and November 18th.
Motion to approve both sets of minutes.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next is consent agenda. There's nothing on consent, so we will move on to regular agenda. Nothing here as well. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to
moved.
adjourn.
All right,
Meeting
thank you.
adjourned.
All right, and we come back together now for the regular scheduled meeting. Need an approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. No presentation. And moving on to public comment, I would like to remind speakers for public comment, you will come up to the podium, provide your first and last name. You'll get 3 minutes to speak. Please make sure you address the Board of County Commissioners. And as per your rules in your meeting packet, speakers will not make comments of a personal nature regarding others, shout, yell, or scream, use obscene or disruptive language, make complaints, remarks, personal attacks, or inflammatory comments against any public official or staff member. Members of the audience will not be allowed to enter the public meeting discussion from their seats. Individuals wishing to speak must follow the proper etiquette, approach the podium, and be recognized by the chair. Individuals in attendance may not interfere with or interrupt the orderly procedure of the BOCC, any BOCC member, or the person speaking whom the chair has properly recognized. With that, I open it up to public comments. Seeing no public comment, I'm going to... Good evening, Mr. Reed.
Rick Reed, 2625 South US 1, Fort Pierce, Florida. Chairman Fowler, on November 20th, 2025, I spoke with you and you were with a constituent. You said you'd call me back. I'm still waiting. I came before this commission months ago concerning an appointment to a board of an individual by Commissioner Clasby. The board voted 3-2 to deny the appointment. The individual since that time has brought through numerous emails threatening and harassed the following individuals: Sheriff Richard Del Toro, State Attorney Don Backadall, Assistant State Attorney David Dodd, Public Defender Diamond Liddy, Commissioners Larry Leeds, James Clasby, Kathy Townsend, and Aaron Lowry, several circuit court judges, Fort Pierce city officials, as well as a host of citizens. I've been warned numerous times. The only one that escaped so far has been you, Chairman Fowler. I can only assume it's because of your relationship with Tony DeFrancisco and the connection to the gentleman, which was disclosed during the Jumbar Brown Pearson matter, which was a criminal issue. Those involved must be held accountable for the damage caused by this persistent harassment, threats, and abuse. The potential for harm to others seems to be imminent. How the two of you all justified your vote in voting for him for that board, which was denied, defies logic for the sake of this community. Commissioner Clasby, you stated on the record you could handle him. What happened? He ain't handled. I'm addressing these next 5 issues to all 5 of you. You were elected by the citizens of St. Lucie County to manage our county. Your performance as of late reflects a lack of professionalism and leadership, more like the tail wagging the dog. Who's really running our county? We all know who was elected to perform this important task. Y'all were. You can agree to disagree, but it must be on principle and not on personal discourse, jealousy driven by ego and animosity. This is not leadership. It's immature behavior. St. Lucie County 2025 millage rate was 21.79, is one of the highest property taxes in Florida. We watched Vero Beach bring in 3 airlines to provide service to their community. We were told repeatedly that we were in negotiations with major carriers to provide service to St. Lucie County. The recent email from County Administrator Y'all's commission, which I think went out last week, says otherwise. We spent a lot of money on our airport to secure airlines, and thus far we've failed. We have a larger population, more centrally located, and a better facility, and yet we have failed and Vero Beach has succeeded. Why? What are each of you doing and collectively to accomplish this most important endeavor? And have you delegated to staff to handle this very important matter and then report back to you all? The same with the veterans shelter. We got $817,000 on the thing tonight. You know, the homeless come to Sweeties. We feed them every day. It's gotten worse. What are y'all doing?
Anyone else wishing to address public comment?
That is a tough act to follow. My name is Deborah McGran. I live in Port St. Lucie. I have a nonprofit called Lost Souls Outreach. I do survival backpacks for the homeless. But that's not why I'm here tonight. I am here to let you know that I pray for you all sincerely. I'm thankful that I have time tonight to speak my piece. I came today to look every one of our commissioners in the eye. You are our elected representatives, and I have to ask you, are you representing the taxpayers and the voters of St. Lucie County? Are you doing everything you can for we the people? Do you ask yourselves that critical question? Do you do your homework on important issues that come before you? Do you know that we hold you accountable for your actions and the way you approve items? Are your goals to be knowledgeable to the best of your ability before you come to work on behalf of us? Or do you depend on staffers and the county manager to run the business of the people without considering at what cost? How do my actions affect my constituents is what I'd like you to ask yourself every morning when you wake up and look at yourself in the mirror. Do you even meet with your constituents on a timely manner? Are you available when they need you? My final question, and because I'm a journalist, I ask a lot of questions. Are you serving us, or are you serving yourselves? My husband is a disabled Vietnam-era veteran. He was an Army paratrooper. He's 73 and I'm 70. We live on a fixed income. Your decisions affect our budget. I do want you to know that I am praying for you and that I'm keeping my eye on you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the board under public comment? Okay. Seeing no movement, I'm going to go ahead and close public comments and come back to proclamations for Engineers Week.
Resolution number 26-025, a resolution proclaiming February 22nd through 28th, 2026 is Engineers Week in St. Lucie County, Florida. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida has made the following determinations. Engineers design, construct, and maintain the infrastructure and facilities that contribute to a high quality of life for all residents of St. Lucie County. St. Lucie County depends on engineers executing innovation, creative, and high-quality solutions to technical problems. The vision of the Florida Engineering Society is to advance public welfare, promote the professional, social, and economic interests of the engineering profession, and stimulate professional development through education and excellence in practice. Members of the Florida Engineering Society and the American Council of Engineer Companies of Florida are making strides to interact with the engineering education section to prepare future engineers to maintain our economic leadership and quality of life. It is important that we recognize and honor the continuing contributions of America's engineers. Now therefore be resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida, does hereby proclaim February 22nd through 28th, 2026 as Engineers Week in St. Lucie County, Florida, passed and duly adopted the 17th day of February 2026.
All right, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, if you want to say a few words and afterwards, feel free to come up.
Greetings, City Council members. I'm very pleased to have met. I've talked with plenty of you guys, and I've seen this county grown in ways that I'm very happy to see. On Friday, we will have the Math Counts competition that will be held here in Fort Pierce, just down the road in the college. Math Counts will have students from all over the county into Indian River County and Martin County will all come here and will compete with each other to prove who is the greatest mathematician that we have so far in our youth. I want to say thank you to all of you who have been helpful in this endeavor, and all those who will seek to prove that St. Lucie County and all members of this, shouldn't say congregation, but all this nation, that we can become great engineers, scientists, and researchers. I want to say thank you, and God bless.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right, and meeting and approval of the minutes for January 27th and February 3rd.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the consent agenda, I do want to point out item 10I2, which is phase 2 of water quality and drainage improvements for the St. Lucie Gardens neighborhood, as well as 10G1. It's under property acquisitions. It is a small parcel, but it backs up along the 5 Mile Creek. And as we know, we are part of a voluntary incentive program ran through FEMA. It's called the Community Rating System. And with our voluntary involvement, by implementing floodplain best practices, we're able to offer residents that get flood insurance a discount on their policy. So this just goes to hardening that and getting a better rating. So, and we love to preserve anything we can. With that, is there anyone else that wants to pull anything
I
mentioned?
have a couple questions.
Commissioner Townsend?
The first question I have is for the county attorney. On the old agenda on 10D, where it's about the facilities agreement, it was removed. I need to know why. And also 10D2, the interlocal agreement for the interlocal agreement with the state attorney for the victim services department. Those two items were removed, and I don't see them on this when the agenda got moved over. So do you know why they were removed?
We're still negotiating on the victim services. There were some last minute revisions, and the state attorney's office told us that it could be put on for March 3rd.
Okay. And then on DE, the one where it was the agreement that was between us and the city of Port St. Lucie for the cold weather shelter. It's been pulled twice now, and at our joint meeting, it was agreed upon that we were going to do this. They offered the Minsky gym, and it's not been put back on. So do you know why?
So that is correct, Madam Commissioner. That item is still under negotiation with the city of Port St. Lucie. They have some contingencies that they're reviewing. They're reviewing the facility, security, and other pieces, so they have not finalized their portion of that as well at this point.
Okay. And on 10G1, on this newest agenda, the veteran shelter, it's an additional $800 and something thousand for renovations. When we got the motel, we've approved a couple already, so now we're going to be, $4 million in renovations. In the beginning, it was stated that it needed a well and ADA compliance. So what is still needing to be done there that's $800,000?
So I'll have Matt and Jennifer come up as well, but this includes the renovation of the entire facility, the fencing, the wastewater, the roof. I can't remember if there was parking improvements as well, But we have not spent money on renovation to date. So far, the county has expended $425,000 towards the purchase and the due diligence.
Okay. Do you have a time frame approximately as to when it might be opening? Given this work is done, say this work takes a year.
This is supposed to take 4 months based on the bid.
Okay, so what is an estimated timeline that this will be open?
I believe the fall, but I'll let Jennifer confirm.
We're expecting like July or August. We expect to be able to give notice to proceed in March, and then 120 days for construction renovations.
Okay, so I do have a question. And I think this is probably more for utilities, but if we're going to be timelining this somewhere around then, are we going to be using the wells and everything that's on the property? We're not going to be hooking into the UA now? Because the last update I had was, the holdup was that we were waiting on the UA to bring the water across the road. So we're not going to go with the UA anymore, or that'll be down the road?
We will be down the road. We've been negotiating with them. We tried to exchange some property for the value of that work, but that did not work out. We have heard that they are extending water up to St. Lucie Village so that we would have the opportunity to do a directional bore, I think is the right word, under US 1 to connect in the future. But right now we have the well operational, and we have that. We just need to get it certified, and we can work with that.
Okay, well, because they're going for some grants too, and they're going to try to tie in some of the grant funding to help bore under the road. That's why I was asking. Okay, so that's good news. And then the pavilion at Pepper Park was also pulled. Do you know why? Thank you. Matt? It was put on, and then now it's been removed off of the updated agenda. Do you know why it was removed?
We can have Joy come up and speak to that since it's under Parks.
Good evening, Board, Chair. For the record, Joy Harthorn, Parks and Recreation Director. Commissioner Townsend, that item was pulled because it did not meet final approval by the deadline.
Okay.
It'll be on the next agenda.
All right, thanks.
All right, thank you.
Okay, and then I have one more thing. It's not on the consent agenda, but it's kind of under this. Mr. Landry, you sent me an email updating everything on the airport. I don't have any records of a consultant that would be doing that work, and I keep pretty good records. So could you please send me the signed contract, and because the board obviously had to approve the consultant. At some point, could you please send me the updated contract that was signed by the chair, that that consultant was doing all the work that you submitted in the email to me, please?
I'm happy to share with you all the consultants. I'm not sure which one you're referring to, but most of the consultants that we've had have been consultants we've had under contract for a long period of time. There's not been a new one.
Okay. Because I just want to make sure that I have my records updated and all that. Other than that, if nobody else has anything, I'm happy to make a motion to approve.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Clausen.
I just had one item I wanted to clarify. You wouldn't believe how many people look at our agenda these days and reach out, especially consent agenda items. F1 is McNulton Subscription Adult Plan Proposal under Libraries. I just wanted to clarify that is not porn. That is not that sort of an adult service. Adult in this instance just means books that are intended for people 18 years and older, not necessarily pornographic. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you for that clarification. Anyone have anything else?
I'll motion for approval of the consent agenda as well.
I think there's a motion, so I'll take that as a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. And with that, we move into public hearings. We've got Barb for the Culver MSBU.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners. For the record, Barbara Gettler, MSBU Coordinator. The Board created the Culvert Assistance Program to give property owners the option to fund the replacement of failed culverts through non-ad valorem assessments. Today's resolution is the assessment resolution as required by county ordinance. The purpose of this resolution relates to the imposition and collection of special assessments to fund stormwater culvert improvements within the MSBU, determine that real property therein will be specially benefited, establish the method of assessing the cost of the improvements, and approve the assessment roll. Staff recommends board approval of resolution number 2026-19 and authorization for the chair to sign documents as approved by the county attorney.
Thank you. This is a public hearing item. Anyone wishing to address the board? Seeing no movement, close public comment and come back to the board.
Motion to approve. And for those at home watching that don't know exactly what she's talking about, this is a program that was started that if you cannot afford to replace your culvert and you need it done, you can do so through the county and we put it on your tax roll. It's a wonderful program. Thank you, Barb.
Second.
Is there a motion?
I already made the motion.
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Ben, you're up. We've got the adoption hearing for the fencing, text amendment for fencing.
Good evening, Chair Fowler and Commissioners. For the record, Ben Balser, Planning and Development Services Director. Agenda item 11B1 is the adoption hearing for a county-initiated Land Development Code text amendment that seeks to expand the allowable fence materials in certain residential zoning districts when specific criteria is met. This hearing was properly advertised in the St. Lucie News Tribune on Friday, February 6th, and the first reading on this item was held on Tuesday, February 3rd. The proposed amendment would allow residential properties located within the Residential Estate 1, Residential Estate 2, Residential Conservation, Residential Single Family 2, Residential Single Family 3, Residential Single Family 4, Residential Mobile Home 5, and Residential Multifamily 5 zoning districts to construct a fence using cattle wire, chicken wire, or similar materials only if the lot is 1 acre or larger, it contains a permitted dwelling unit, and is located on an unpaved, privately maintained road. In 2023, the board approved an amendment to the county's residential fence regulations that prohibited the use of cattle wire, chicken wire, and barbed wire within all residential zoning districts except for agricultural residential 1. The intent was to improve aesthetics and ensure consistency within residential areas of the county. In 2024, the board revisited these regulations and adopted a narrow exception, allowing residential property adjacent to local, state, or federal preserve areas with an existing cattle or chicken wire fence to install a similar fence within their rear or side yards. This change was intended to recognize existing development patterns near preserve lands and maintained consistency with allowed fence materials. The proposed amendment is another narrow exception that is limited to large residential properties on unpaved, privately maintained roads where traditional fence materials may not be consistent with the area's rural character. Importantly, all other fence regulations, including height and placement, remain unchanged. These fences will still need a building permit and will include a survey depicting the location of the fence in relation to property boundaries and any on-site easements. The amendment only adds flexibility in material and only under very specific circumstances. The proposed amendment is compatible with the existing rural character and development patterns, and this regulation would apply and maintains the overall intent of the county's residential fencing standards. Therefore, staff recommends the board vote to adopt the ordinance as drafted by staff, and I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ben. This is a public hearing item. Anyone wishing to address the board on this item? Now is the time. Seeing no movement, I'm going to close public comment. Back to the board.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Good evening, Joanne.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. For the record, Joanne Riley, Property Acquisition Director. Item 11C1 is a public hearing to abandon Tupelo Street. The Property Acquisition Department received a request from Patricia Carter to abandon an unopened and unmaintained right-of-way, a 50-foot unopened, unmaintained right-of-way known as Tupelo Street, on the plat of the White City Plaza, recorded in Plat Book 10, page 20, in 1954. The intent of the abandonment is to clean up the property, remove some dead pine trees, and use the additional land to build a detached garage. The petitioner intends to provide a privacy buffer along the southern boundary of the abandoned right-of-way. The area in question is highlighted in red on your monitors for a reference, located between Oleander and Melville, south of Midway Road. A notice of intent to abandon was advertised by Ms. Patricia Carter on September 23rd and September 30th of 2025, and she received no objections. On December 9, 2025, the Board of County Commissioners approved permission to advertise tonight's public hearing. On February 2 of 2026, county staff notified property owners within 500 feet of the abandonment, and we had several phone calls, and one objection was received by virtue of a phone call. On February the 3rd, 2026, county staff advertised a notice of the public hearing, or tonight's public hearing, to be held at 6 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the item may be heard. On February the 6th of 2026, Ms. Carter posted the required public notice signs on the property. We have one abutting property owner for this petition. They were provided an affidavit of consent or objection from the abutting property owner by the petitioner. The abutting property owner, Sungrove Montessori School, has declined to sign the affidavit and provided a written response with various concerns and proposed negotiations related to the petition site. As the board is aware, on February the 12th, the Property Acquisition Department received a letter from the Board of Directors and Administration of Sungrove Montessori School with questions and comments. The following agencies, as a part of our abandonment process, are reached out to. They had no objections to the abandonment. Those consisted of AT&T, Florida Power and Light, Comcast, Crown Castle Fiber, Fort Pierce Utility Authority, and the St. Lucie County Fire District. Section 11-1002C2 of the St. Lucie County Land Development Code allows the Board of County Commissioners to impose a privilege fee for abandonment and vacation of the interest of the county. Tupelo Street was dedicated by the plat of White City Plaza at no cost to the county in September of 1954. Staff recommends that the board approve Resolution 2026-20, authorize the chair to sign the resolution, and instruct staff to publish the final notice of abandonment and record the resolution and proofs of publication in the public records of St. Lucie County, Florida. I have various other members of staff with me tonight. That concludes my presentation, but we would all be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, perfect. Questions from the board before I open it for public comment? Okay. This is a public hearing item. Anyone wishing to address the board on this item? I can have you come up to the podium. And as we have residents come up on this too, I just want to make sure when we come back to the board that we answer the questions that were submitted to the best of our ability, please. Hi, good evening.
Hi. Good evening. Good evening, thank you. My name's Shauna Noble. I'm here tonight as the head of school at Sungrove Montessori School and also as a parent of a Sungrove graduate and a current sixth grader who's here with me tonight at Sungrove. Sungrove has served this community for almost 50 years, and we have been in our current location for over 40 years, which is longer than most of our neighbors, including Ms. Carter. And when we designed our campus, we did it with a lot of intentionality to protect the privacy and safety of our students, being a school. With the possible usage change, the abandonment of this lot, that will put our youngest population's privacy and security at risk. That side of our campus that borders Tupelo Street is where our infants through primary, so that's 6 weeks old through 6-year-old students, have their outdoor classrooms where they spend much of their time outside, and that borders that land. So we are asking the commission to commit to the safety and security of our school students by including a 10-foot easement in the approval of this abandonment. Again, just to allow for that buffer and privacy between our school campus and what now will be private property. If the petition goes through and is approved as is without the easement, then we, at the very least, will expect that the county's landscape code is followed, which with the use change in this land will make it where now we'll have non-residential up against residential, and per landscape code that will require an 8-foot barrier with landscaping on both sides to be within the county's code. So again, thank you for your time. We are hoping for an agreement where we can just secure the safety of our youngest students. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we've got some folks.
Absolutely.
Hi, my name
Hi.
is Lacey Hatchett. I serve on the board of directors at Sungrove Montessori, but my primary perspective tonight is that of a parent with 2 children currently enrolled in the school, one of whom I dragged with me today. Sungrove has been a quiet, stable part of this community for 50 years. We've always operated on the belief that nature is a core academic requirement, not an extra. Our campus was intentionally designed to blend indoor and outdoor learning, and that history is exactly why we're here tonight. For our infants, toddlers, and primary students, the gardens that back up to this property are functional classrooms. In a Montessori environment, these young children aren't just playing. They're practicing deep concentration and sensory work. A 10-foot wooded buffer is a vital piece of school infrastructure that protects that focus. It provides the visual and acoustic privacy necessary for 3-year-olds to learn safely. From a pragmatic standpoint, this buffer also ensures land use compatibility. It acts as a natural sound barrier that protects the neighbor's peace while shielding our students from the distraction of construction and residential traffic. This request isn't just about our preference. It aligns with the city's own goals for tree preservation and Florida's standards for school security. A wooded easement provides a natural security screen for our perimeter, which is critical for our youngest and most vulnerable students. We are not opposing the neighbor's acquisition of this property. We simply ask that the turnover include a recorded 10-foot uncleared buffer. This is a common sense compromise. It honors 50 years of integrated educational design and ensures that our city's oldest Montessori school remains the safe, nature-blending environment our children deserve. I'm asking the council to protect the functional needs of our school while allowing the neighborhood to move forward. By requiring this small but essential boundary, you are ensuring that Sungrove can continue to serve this community for another 50 years. Thank you for your time and your commitment to our kids.
Thank you. Hi.
My name is Heather. My kids are 4th generation St. Lucie County.
Heather, what's your last name?
Merson.
Did you get that?
Heather Person?
Sorry, Merson. Merson. M as in Mary. MERSON.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My son graduated Sungrove 2 years ago. He's a sophomore at MOA, which he didn't get his love of science from me. He got it from Sungrove. I fell in love with that school because of those gardens 15 years ago, and they mean a lot to me. But my sister's mother-in-law was one of the original board members at Sungrove, and there's still pictures hanging in my parents' house of the parties that they used to have at the Civic Center that used to be here back in the late 70s, early 80s. The whole town would come to these parties. Sungrove was like, this party was the be-end, like the be-all, end-all. Anyway, so yeah, my son's at MOA, killing it, and his love of science is just incredible. Have you been able to visit the school to see the gardens? I'm not quite sure if anyone has seen it, but if you saw it, you would know why we're all here asking for 10 feet. which seems minimal because a standard garage is like, what, 30 by 30? And I think that's like 50 something or other. Let's see. I think that's about it. And I'm looking forward to the 50th in 2028. So just 10 feet is all we need. Please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Sarah Rodriguez. I am a parent from Sungrove and also a resident of White City. I live less than a mile from this location. I also spent 15 years working in child welfare in Circuit 19, and I continue to serve our community through the Human Trafficking Coalition of the Treasure Coast and Okeechobee. So when I speak about children's safety and development, I do so both as a parent and as a professional who spent a career protecting the most vulnerable children in our community. We are not opposing the petitioner's request, as many people have said. We just really want that 10-foot preserved wooded buffer for the safety, privacy, and well-being of young children. In child welfare, we understand a fundamental truth. Emotional safety is inseparable from physical safety. Children develop trust, confidence, and independence only when their environment is predictable, protected, and secure. This matters so deeply to families like mine. My twins began at Sungrove in the toddler classroom. They now attend the primary, so would be impacted, of course, by this. My 9-year-old son returns to these same spaces to read to the children and mentor the children in those classrooms, which is a fundamental piece of the Montessori education. When we look at the continued growth of our youth, we're looking at kids who are returning to those younger classrooms in order to facilitate multi-age learning environments for our kids. The younger kids are naturally learning curiosity for reading, literature, science, etc. from the older students. And this quiet cycle of growth, this belonging, is what makes this place really meaningful to all of us. Those outdoor gardens are not just play areas, as people have said, they are classrooms. They are functioning classrooms where kids are learning to build focus, calm, and confidence. Florida law and county's land development framework require that abandonment of right-of-ways serve the public interest and protect community health, safety, and welfare. Protecting the safety and privacy of infants, toddlers, and elementary children clearly meets that standard. The county's own standards already require landscape buffers, visual screening, and separation between adjacent and incompatible uses. So as mentioned, we will have residential butting against non-residential. Thoughtful boards build reasonable safeguards and really plan for risk reduction at the time of approval, not when a conflict occurs. We're very glad we have a great relationship with our neighbor now, but neighbors change. Leadership moves on. Hopefully we'll have Ms. Shada for some time, but communities also grow. So we want to just make sure that you guys are committed to ensuring predictable and compatible development. Really, that is a responsible way to plan in the community. Years from now, no one is going to remember the exact measurements of this parcel of land, but the children here will remember whether or not they felt safety when they learned independence. So I just ask respectfully that you approve the easement when you're considering this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
My name is Misty Green. I am a neighbor to Miss Carter. My backyard backs up to Olive Street, so the view out my kitchen window while I'm doing the dishes is of this Tupelo Street. I have 2 children, both enrolled at Sungrove, and they spend a lot of their days in that garden. I didn't write anything down because it really just seems like common sense to... It just seems like common sense to include a 10-foot easement for privacy and safety, just a little bit of a buffer. I went down over the weekend and looked at the property, and having just a 10-foot easement still allows a lot of property that Ms. Carter would acquire to build a garage or whatever it is she would want to add to that property, but there's plenty of space to do all of that if you do include the 10-foot easement. like, it's a very, very reasonable request, and it just seems like a common sense thing to do to protect safety and privacy for our children. So that's about it.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Catherine Moises, and I am here tonight wearing several hats. I am not only a mother of one of the children whose classroom backs directly up to Tupelo Street, I'm also a member of the school's board of directors, and for the past 10 years, I've also been a guardian ad litem through both the 15th and the 19th Judicial Circuit. I want to be clear from the beginning that this is not about ownership. We are not interested in this property. This is about safety. The classrooms that sit along Tupelo Street serve children from infancy through 5 years old. And I want to be clear, we accept students as young as 6 weeks old. The classroom wall sits immediately at the property boundary, not near it, not across a parking lot, at it. For months, we've been told the request to vacate was because the adjacent property owner wanted the land and had no specific plans. We took that at face value. When the board agenda was published last week, we learned that there were in fact plans to construct a detached garage on that property, and that is why our request for an easement was originally denied. That matters. And this is no longer an abstract transfer of unused land. This is a request that would allow a private structure to be built directly against the boundary of a classroom full of infants and toddlers and preschoolers. We've also learned that there was notice published in the newspaper in September, and while technically compliant, newspaper notices do not meaningfully alert working parents or school communities. The absence of objections should not be interpreted as awareness or consent. Right now, Tupelo Street functions as a safety buffer, and if vacated, that buffer disappears permanently. Before approving this request, I respectfully ask, what enforceable protections would be required to safeguard the children on the other side of that wall? Is there a required setback, opaque fencing, restrictions on vehicle access, a landscape buffer? Because if none of those protections are required, then this decision is not administrative. It materially changes the safety environment of very young children. You have discretion tonight. Once this land is transferred, that discretion disappears. I ask you to consider carefully whether approving this without enforceable protections reflects the duty we share to protect children who cannot protect themselves. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you. My name is Jackie Shapiro. I am a very proud resident of St. Lucie County, District 4, actually. And I'm also a board member at Sungrove. I didn't prepare anything. I'm just going to talk. I just really hope that you will respectfully, I greatly implore you to consider granting the easement with this property. As all of them have said, we're not against her having the property. You don't want the property. We're not asking to own anything additional. We really want to consider the safety and security and health and well-being of our children. You know, she wants to we didn't know, like she said, about the garage, about additional structures that can lead right up to it. As we have seen lately in the news, the people that should be protecting our children have not been doing so lately. She would have very great access to the children, pictures of children, videos of children, if she were to put cameras on that property. And so we would greatly request that you consider the safety of these children and protection of them to be able to be in that area freely and use their imaginations and grow and learn in this beautiful nature that we have here in this weather, without parents being concerned about what's really happening on the other side of that fence. It's a true security concern and well-being for our children. So we just greatly hope you'll consider adding that easement to protect them. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi there. It's Matthew Mitz, 5860 Sunbury Circle. I have kind of two legs of the issue here with this abandonment. I want to thank the board for dedicating this as Engineers Week. I'm a professional engineer, and I work for a local municipality and actually review right-of-way abandonments, and I've drafted ordinances for abandonments. Some issues I have with the county's process here is that the county did not have the county engineer review it as required in the code. I see no evidence on the agenda package that the county engineer touched this. I'm sure he did. I'm sure Public Works did review it. But I would request that the county update their ordinance to reflect the way that staff is actually reviewing it. The second issue is the privilege fee. Nowhere in the staff report does it mention that this land is worth $80,000, and the county seems fit to give it away. This subdivision includes 10 other homes that, when the subdivision was created, all those properties owned part of Tupelo when the developer created it, and the county is giving it to one owner. It just doesn't sit right. I just wish the county would reconsider the privilege fee. And just me personally, while I'm here, while I reviewed this, is my grandson goes to Sungrove Montessori. The school's been
No, take your time.
The school's been important. I request that the county commission table this, or grant the 10-foot easement. Grant the 10-foot easement, or table this if you don't have the means to do so at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing? Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the County Commission. My name is Leslie Olson. I am not here to represent District Planning Group tonight. I am here tonight because I am the proud parent of 4 Sungrove Montessori graduates. So I'm not going to go in and tell you all about how great that garden is, but I will tell you that that's what sold us when we walked in to see where we were going to send our kids to learn. Watching that independent learning is remarkable, and if you haven't had an opportunity to go and tour the school, I highly recommend it. It's just, you walk in and there are all these children working independently, choosing their own stuff, putting stuff away. It's unbelievable. So those outdoor classrooms are a really big part of it, though, and as others have mentioned, it's been there for half a century now, and it has nourished probably thousands of families over time. And so I think that, like everybody has said, there's a win-win situation here. There's no reason that the commission can't condition this approval on an easement being imposed for landscaping on the eastern 10 feet, southern 10 feet, prior to dedication of this land to the property owner. I think that the section of code 70904E can trip up this property owner when they go in for a building permit, because it does require a wall between residential and non-residential uses. I think the school would be open to a conversation about a wall waiver if that easement were there. I can't commit them to that, but it might be worth a conversation as well. But I think there's a win-win situation. You could also grant a variance, but your variance standards are really strict, and it wouldn't meet the criteria for a variance for that new detached garage. So I'm asking for you to do that. And if you have any questions, I'll be available. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, we're still under public comment. Anyone else wishing to address the board? All right, seeing no other public comment, go ahead and close public comment, come back to the board.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Clasby.
I don't think I need to on this specific item, but I just wanted to disclose that my nephew attended Sungrove Montessori, and I can confirm that it was really cool seeing him spill something on the ground and then going and getting the paper towel and cleaning it up himself. So it's a really neat school. I also know the applicant's son that's applying for this. And I just wanted to say this. Neither of those things will influence my vote here this evening, so I wanted to disclose that. I did have a couple questions for staff, if I could. So if this is granted to the Carters, does it just assume the zoning district that their house sits on?
Chair Fowler, Commissioner Clasby, yes, the current zoning district for the single-family house north of the Tupelo Street is residential single-family 3, and that would be incorporated into the abandoned right-of-way.
So remind me, the application for this, it said they were going to have a detached garage or an attached garage?
Commissioner Fowler, Commissioner Clasby, yes, a detached garage is the way the petition read.
In that zoning district, what would that be considered a side setback? Would that be what would the setback be from the property line if it was going through a building permit?
Commissioner Clasby, yes, that would be a side setback. In the RS3, the side setback for this lot would be 10 feet.
10 feet. Okay. Of course, they're looking for a buffer of 10 feet in addition to that. I have on my screen the plat with the map kind of side by side. With that 50 feet, if they were to gain 40, would they be able to accomplish what they're trying to do?
So Chair Fowler, Commissioner Clasby, I'm not familiar with their building permit application, the size of their detached garage that they're anticipating. You know, I could tell you that I would say yes. You know, 40 feet is plenty of space in order to put a garage for a car, boat, RV. But that's just knowing the layout of the lot.
And then I've heard, I haven't got to visit the garden, unfortunately, but is the garden in the right-of-way?
I am not familiar with the garden either.
It's on their property?
I do not believe it would be within the Tupelo Street right-of-way, but on the Sungrove Montessori parcel.
Okay. Yeah, this is this interesting situation because usually in development applications, it's the residential person asking for the distance buffer from the commercial property, so that's kind of interesting. That's all the comments I have at this time. We'll look for the board.
Questions?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Townsend?
before you close the public comment, I was going to ask, I do see the Carters out here, and I wanted to know if you would be okay that if there were some questions, that they would be able to come up and respond to any of the questions that we would have?
Yeah, they can respond to questions.
So I do have a couple comments. First, I want to say to the gentleman that spoke about $80,000, I don't think that this is an $80,000 right-of-way being given away, and we're not giving it to one owner. So the way that the code works, Leslie Olson's here, she can verify this probably, and as well as our staff, that this property in a right-of-way can only be given to something that originally existed within that plat. So the school was in a plat all of its own that faced Oleander, and the neighbors behind the school was in a different plat. And the reason why this section that is being given up was a road, future road, whatever. Every other home that sits within that plat abuts up to the school. This is the only piece of property that does not abut up to the school. All the other neighbors in that plat abut right up to the school property. And so obviously we know that because of that, we're not going to do a road. Road's never going to happen. So this is not uncommon for a homeowner that if there's 10 lots, one was left without and the other 9 already butt up, for a homeowner to come in. This is not abnormal to do that. So I want everybody to be informed and know the facts and the law. The other thing is all of the homes abut up to the school, and I have some pictures that it's a chain link fence. I don't know what some of the things are that these neighbors have, but one of the sections, the school has Areca palms, but the neighbor doesn't. So there's a chain link fence and Areca palms. And so y'all are correct, though, that whenever something goes from residential to commercial, it does have to have a 10-foot fence. So the resident, if she decides to get this, will have to put in a 10-foot fence. The other thing is, with what I want to reference you're saying, Commissioner Cosby, is if you were to do the 10 foot and give 40, then the 40 foot they end up with has to be 10 foot setback from that. And then they probably wanted a good 10, 15 feet away from their house. That would allow for probably a 15 foot garage. So I don't know. I don't know what they're planning on putting there. I don't know if it's a motorhome. I don't know. And this is a question either for Joanne or for Catherine. I know that when we're giving up the right of way, and it's within that plat, can we carve out 10 feet and only give 40 feet of the 50? Or is it better to give the 50 feet and just say that we want, if she's going to put a building there, because I don't know if she's going to do it. I don't know what she's planning. If we were to give the 50 feet, when I went and looked at the property, and by the way, I do want to compliment you. I'm very familiar with your school. I remember when it went in. I lived in White City. I have myself started a charter school here, Independence Classical Academy. I know the worth of it. And I would say next to Independent Classical Academy, y'all are right at the very top of any school in this. Nobody can debate that you don't provide wonderful, wonderful care there. And it's an art and a gift in the things that you do there, because it's not the teaching that goes on in a regular public school. So, and I appreciate the fact that you all took time out of your schedule tonight to be here and be a voice in the community, because it matters. So if we were to take the 50 feet and just say that there had to be a 10-foot landscaping buffer, that's more than what they're going to have from any other homeowner to begin with, because a lot of these other homeowners are just chain link fenced and open area. So if we were to say the 10-foot buffer area, that would also include the 10-foot setback for whatever they want to do. And then I think that's being fair, more or less, to everybody, because we're not breaking up a tract of land of a right-of-way. We're having the 10-foot landscaping that she's going to have to put in, and then it allows them to do a shed or garage or whatever they're going to do. I don't know. I mean, I'm okay with listening to what the rest of the board does. However, I do want to say that when I went and looked, and I had pictures, I'm happy to have Eric put them up. I'm happy to share them with y'all if you want to see them. I think with this, they're going to have more privacy from this than any other homeowner that's there, because she has to put up a privacy fence now, because the prior neighbors don't have to follow the same code as what's current today, going from commercial to residential, because they were there prior to that.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Cosby.
I just had a quick follow-up to part of this. With the requirements of them acquiring the property, I've kind of heard it talked about that they would have to put up a 10-foot fence or wall. Could you elaborate on that? Because if they have to put up a 10-foot wall, I mean, that's pretty private.
Good evening, Amy Cooper with the Environmental Resources Department. So as 70904E reads, it's landscape buffer areas between non-residential or residential structures housing 3 or more dwelling units and single-family or 2-family residential units. So that means that it is the non-residential that would be required to screen from the single-family residential, not the single-family.
That seems to be the way that it usually goes with any application I've ever seen, right? I mean, that makes sense.
Madam Chair, that was my point. Normally, it's the business that has to do it, but this is a unique situation, and even though it's unique and the resident's not required to do it, she's offered to do it.
But, you know, I think for the board to kind of make its decision, I would think that we would need to ask the applicant kind of what their intent is for some of it.
Which is why I wanted the chair to authorize.
And I mean, you know, part of that would just be to describe briefly, not with an engineer's, you know, mindset or anything, just like what exactly they were going to put there, what sort of buffer they're offering, because there's already a 10-foot setback built in with, you know, the building permit that would be required.
Yep.
And, you know, if it's detached, obviously it's going to be separated from the house. And I don't know if there's a minimum width that it has to be detached from the main residence in the code, or is there not?
Commissioner Clasby, that would be reliant on the Florida Building Code for separation standards.
Do we know what that is?
I do not.
Okay.
Would you guys be willing to come up to the podium to clarify some of Commissioner Clasby's questions? Good evening.
Hi, I'm Patricia Carter, And we do plan on putting up a privacy fence, just like they have in the back where the playground is, in the back of the school. They have a 6-foot chain link fence, and they have areca palms. That's what separates that and their playground in the back. And we plan on putting we already have a privacy fence now, but we plan on doing something like what they had back there with the areca palms and a privacy fence. And I didn't know it had to be 10 foot, but I'm more than willing to put up 10 feet.
I don't know that it can be 10.
Yeah, I know. I thought it was 8.
Is it 8?
And I thought we had 20-foot setbacks there also.
Well, Jay Anashusky, we're married. I have a different last name, though. Yes, we currently have a 6-foot tall privacy fence all the way around our entire backyard. You know, we include this property. We just want to extend the privacy fence over and put it up against their privacy fence and then put landscaping all along the side of it because we want privacy also. Currently, it's 6 foot tall. If we need to go 8 foot tall, I don't know is that they make privacy fences taller than that.
And I don't mind keeping the privacy fence away from. I have no problem with the school at all.
Yeah.
I would always be respectful to them and that. And I don't mind keeping it away where, I mean, if they want to put some trees up there too in between the two fences because they have a chain link fence also, I'm more than willing to do that too.
There's no immediate plans right now to build anything.
No.
We would like to add a garage at some point.
It's just a 2-car garage.
Right, but currently, with that being Tupelo Street, we're considered a corner lot, and we would have to stay 20 feet off that, and we don't have the room. We don't plan on going all the way over as close as we possibly can to the school. We just need that land in order to be able to do anything.
That makes sense.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Did you have more by the right here?
Yeah, Madam Chair. So with that, I mean, I can see why you'd want to acquire the property because you probably can't fit a detached garage with
Yeah, and it's just, it's not a big building or anything like that. It's just, and that's not right away and time soon for
Do you
that.
know the approximate dimensions of the build, like how
Whatever
wide?
a 2-car garage would be,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
Right. There are no plans right now.
No, it
It's
was just I
something
put
we
it
would
in
like to
case
do.
we were going to do it later. It's not in the cards right now, but, you know, later on when we can, you know, afford to do that.
Madam Chair.
Oh, Commissioner Townsend.
How long have you lived there?
27 years.
27?
Mm-hmm. Oh, almost, probably.
Since 1999. House is built,
98,
wasn't it?
98.
And she lived across the street in the little cabin before that. She's lived in White City pretty much her entire life.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Cosby.
I hear the school's concerns. You know, without hearing the concerns, it makes total sense to me that this property would go to them if it was to go to anybody, because right now it's on the it's owned by the county as a right-of-way. I don't ever foresee, from my viewpoint, us putting a road there. And if there was a road there, that would potentially be more dangerous than the side of a garage. And currently it'll have, I'm assuming you'll move the fence towards that line. Is there any protections we would want to say? I mean, they're going to have a 10-foot setback. I assume they're not going to build within that 10-foot setback.
No. I wouldn't build 20 feet over there. That would be at least 20 feet I would keep the garage away from.
Is staff recommending any further, restrictions to that portion of the property?
Commissioner Cosby, nothing additional that I'm aware of.
Nothing additional that I'm aware of, but they will have to comply with all of the building codes and the landscaping codes at the time they come in for permitting, whatever codes are in effect at that time.
And again, that's no time soon, right away that we'll be doing that.
And currently with the screening, it seems both properties seem to meet the minimum requirements for screening.
Gotcha.
At this point in time.
Commissioner Lee.
Are we able, or I'm assuming there is no guidelines in the ordinance as far as what their buffering has to be? Or am I wrong in that?
For the single-family use?
Providing we give them the property, is there anything in the ordinance that requires the a bush every 2 feet or something?
No, there is not. There is for the non-residential use or the institutional use, that is the school, but not for single-family residents.
And would we be able to, if we relinquish the land to them, put in the ordinance some type of buffering that would satisfy the school? Would that be legal, or I guess
I would defer that
awards a
question to
Catherine
County
question.
Attorney.
Catherine Barbieri, County Attorney, Commissioner Leet. Unfortunately, no, you cannot condition it. So if you abandon this property, then it will be their property. They will have to follow all our rules and regulations that are in the codes, which would require setbacks and things if they build, but you cannot condition it.
Is there any way to add that to the ordinance, since this is a unique situation and we're giving up land? Or do you have any ideas how we can guarantee the school that that 10-foot area that they can't build in would have some type of buffer?
You could continue and encourage them to talk with each other and see if there's something that they're willing to work out that would satisfy the school.
Excuse
But we
me.
cannot condition it.
Did that change the setbacks? Because currently we're 20-foot setbacks.
So, Commissioners, currently with Tupelo Street in existence, this parcel is looked at as would have a side corner setback because it would be a corner lot, and that setback, a side corner setback, is 20 feet. If you eliminate the Tupelo Street right-of-way, it's just a straight corner or a straight lot, and then it would be just a 10-foot setback. So the removal of the right-of-way does change your setback.
It reduces that, okay.
So here's my question. It sounds, they're looking for 10 feet. There's setbacks by code. Have you guys together been out on site to get an idea of what that would look like? With, not you guys, sorry, I'm kind of, not that she can answer from the student, from her seat, but have you met with anyone from the school? Have you guys sort of been out there to see what, with that 10-foot setback, what that sort of separation looks like? Has that been done?
No. We initially, when we got our email, we were told only to talk to the board, that the school administration had no say, no decision making or anything. Shauna called me and said that you guys all agreed with giving them 10 feet on the phone to me, and was told not to deal with them, only the board, that they make, and it's in your email in the packet, that I was told not to deal with them at all. They do not make decision making, and under abandonment, it is with the board, and this is the first time I've heard anything from the board with them just being here, other than that initial email where they refused to sign it.
I just have a question. If she can stand here and kind of have a conversation back and forth, can I be offered the same right?
Let me, only because I did sort of ask you a question, I will allow it this one time.
Okay.
It's not typical. It is typical for us to allow the applicant to come back up for rebuttal, but because again, I did sort of ask you, I will entertain it this time. So if you would just come up to the microphone though this way, because you'd be surprised, you're 12 inches away from that thing and you can't hear anything watching on TV.
Madam Chair. Sorry, could I ask Ben, could you pull up while she's speaking Google Earth and kind of angle that so we can see from the property owner side the thickness of the vegetation? It shows up really well on there.
So as we've said before, and Patty has said now, we have a good relationship. We've had a good relationship. We both want the same thing. She just said she wants to give us 20 feet of privacy. We are just asking, and yes, the board is the entity that makes business decisions. So I cannot make business decisions for Sungrove. My board does. I did call her and invite her to come meet with me and my board, which she declined to do. I shared that every commissioner I spoke to said it was reasonable. I did not say approved, but reasonable to ask for a 10-foot easement. We are just asking that, seeing as we have a good relationship and we both want the same thing, 20 feet, right? that we just make that official so that when Patty is no longer living there and I am no longer the head of school, that the agreement that we have made stands true for those in the future. That's all we're asking for. I mean, literally the words that Patty said is she wants to give us 20 feet. So we are just asking to come up with a way to make sure that that is official so that in the future, Sungrove, the last 50 years and the next 50 years, has that security.
Excuse me, I didn't say I'd give 20 feet. I just said that we would do the setback for the garage, so it wasn't like me giving. And when Shauna did call me about that, and she said that she wanted to speak to me neighbor to neighbor, I said, well, you don't have decision making to do that. And she said, yeah, but I can bring a member of the board, but just neighbor to neighbor to, talk about this. So they had told me not to speak to anyone at the school. It's in the email. They said, do not speak to anyone at the school. No, because you refused to sign it.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Glasgow.
Just kind of I'm watching what's going on the screen. If you exit Street View and go to 3D Map View, you kind of get a... So, Madam Chair, my question with this is, I mean, clearly if they were to receive this and they need to build a detached garage there, they're going to need to clear some of those trees. What is the requirement for replanting, if any, and then what sort of vegetation would you recommend they put there to maintain some sort of privacy? I mean, there's going to maintain a privacy fence. It's very thick vegetation through there. Now, what type of trees would you say those are? Those native trees, invasive trees?
They appear to be oak trees that are within there. So depending on whether they meet the tree mitigation threshold to require mitigation, which can vary depending on the size of the parcel. So if it's over an acre for residential, it's 24 inches. If it's under an acre, it's 24 inches. If it's over an acre, 12 inches diameter at breast height. And so the way to meet tree mitigation requirements, you can preserve on site. So if you, for instance, if you have a 12-inch tree or 24-inch tree and you have a native tree on site that's 12 or 24 inches, because I don't know what the size of the parcel is going to be once they merge those two parcels, if they have an equal sized tree on site, that would meet the tree mitigation requirements.
Okay. And then another question is, I mean, we're talking about putting a structure there that's going to require a 10-foot setback. Are we, and I think I heard that we're not even able to reduce the size of the partial we would be granting? Is that what I heard? Would we be able to put a deed restriction on that 10 feet?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Clasby, the way that this subdivision was platted, this actual right-of-way is part of that plat. So if the board were to abandon it, the statute says it has to stay within the plat, which means all 50 feet would go to the petitioner.
So it's not even technically possible what they're asking us to only grant 40 feet.
Unless the county attorney has another idea as to, if we could have the two parties agree outside of the public hearing and continue it and then put some sort of an agreement together. But I don't believe that staff nor the board can trump the Florida statutes for platting.
So I personally would like to see the property go on the tax roll and understand that they're going to respect the buffer and do what they can to landscape it. I mean, it seems like the right thing to do to me.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Lee.
From what I'm gathering, we all sort of see the same thing. We want to give the school the privacy. We want to obviously give you the property. The issue is the 10-foot buffer, and what does that look like? So back to Catherine, since we can't do it legally, what would I'm going to use the term interlocal agreement between the two parties look like, and would that stand on the young lady's concerns of down the road if they sell, what have you, the new people can't get in there? Is there any legal remedy for that?
They could, between themselves, have something recorded in the public record, calling it, so if you continued it, let them talk, figure out if they want to record their own conservation easement over the 10 feet or something, but they have to do it themselves. They have to do all the work themselves, and then they can come back with it prepared and understanding that in good faith she'll record it, but we cannot condition it at all.
Madam Chair. From the original presentation, what I noticed is that the applicant, included to provide a privacy buffer. So the matter of how much of that buffer would be trees, et cetera. I feel like if y'all could just have a conversation and have maybe a mediator to work this out, then we can, benefit everyone. I understand the school's perception of lacking privacy, but I think that tree buffer, if you could come to an agreement of what exactly it would look like, then we would all could kind of be on board at the same time.
There's not trees up against the school right now on their fencing area around the activity area, and that there's no trees beside there at all.
Yeah, unfortunately, from the aerial,
Oh, so it
it
looks
looks
like
like it's
yeah.
heavily wooded.
But it's
that's
oak.
just the canopy.
Yeah, there are some oaks
We
on it, and that
provided a couple
Here's the
photos that
activity
shows the activity area, and you can see that
Could Eric put those
there's a
on?
wide area where there's just no vegetation at all. It's not like there's heavy vegetation between us now.
yeah, there's a what is it called? The pepper trees in the front. That's
There's
on
a
the
lot
front
of
part, and then
invasive
there's a
pepper
pepper tree in the
trees.
back. But we're not planning on going in there cutting down trees and doing all
Yeah.
that stuff anyhow.
There's several nice
So
oak
we're
trees.
we're
some
being
cabbage
handed a couple
palms.
photos. I wonder if Eric could just pop it on the screen.
I need them down on this thing real quick.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Clausby.
Another question I have is it's an unopened right-of-way today. What is the public's ability to access that today? Is someone allowed to use that as a trail to walk today?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Clausby, Patrick Diane, Public Works Director. For the record, it is a right-of-way, platted right-of-way. It is a unopened, unmaintained right-of-way, so it's sometimes referred to as a paper road, but I believe it would have the same legal abilities as any other right-of-way to be open to the public. Now, whether it is capable of being open to the public is a different story, whether somebody can actually use it.
Sure. I mean, that seems like a security risk to me, even as of today. I mean, we could have people, we're not allowed to public camp because we passed an ordinance against that, but prior to that, technically, you could have had people camping there. And I feel like keeping a small strip of public right-of-way opens it up to, a person trying to use it as a public access way or potentially stalking kids or something weird like that. I almost feel safer with it being private property.
All right, any other?
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Lee?
Would you be interested in getting an agreement with Montessori that 10 feet, obviously you can't build there, so it just is going to be as far as leave it like it is and not touch anything there other than the 10-foot back? Would you be willing to do that with the school?
With the agreement for the 10 feet
Correct.
for it to
Just
a buffer?
informal agreement between the two parties. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, Catherine, is that the proper term?
They could talk, and it would be between themselves, and they could do something more formal, like a easement, conservation easement that she records after getting title to the property, or they could do it, it would be what the parties feel gives them the comfort level, or just an agreement that, but if it's not recorded, it won't be with the land, won't be the problem.
Excuse me for interrupting. You just brought up a conservation easement. Can you explain that to them and
It would
what
be,
that
it'd
might
be a
do
document
tax-wise
that,
for?
it would be a document that they would record in the public records, saying that they will leave the oaks and everything, alone, and that they will never build on that part of the property.
And they can specify that 10 feet?
They would have to get with an attorney to exactly work it out, but they could specify a distance, not the whole property, obviously, yes.
And that would also reduce their taxable property value?
That I do not know. I assume if it's not buildable, then the property appraiser will take that into consideration.
So when you're saying that for us to leave the 10 feet and it's the schools or it's ours, but we just keep it as an easement?
I'm sorry, I didn't
Can you pull those photos, Shreko? Just for reference, that top photo is looking from Juniper Street towards Smith Street, and you can see the chain link fence that runs down along the side of the school now. There's virtually no trees, no buffer, no vegetation in that first 10 feet anyhow.
Yeah.
So we could leave that 10 feet alone, but it's just looking at leaves.
I understand that, and well, I understand their concern too. You guys sell, new people can come in and do whatever they want to, and that's
Right.
one of their major concerns. Obviously, the 10 feet is the major concern. We can't build in it anyway. I don't know that much about the conservation path, but I've known several ranchers or grove people that have dedicated their land to conservation easements, and they get tax breaks for that. They can still use the land, but they can't do anything with it. And I'm thinking this might be a solution for it if it cost isn't there or anything else. So I'm throwing it back at Catherine to see if she's got any more suggestions or comments.
Commissioner Lee, again, unfortunately, the parties need to talk and feel what they're comfortable with. If they want to record something in the public record, then it'd be something like the conservation easement, just, outlining how much property they feel they'll never build on and they'll leave in a native state. But they would have to do that, come up with something outside of the county, and then bring it back to the county. And if you want, then you would then give the abandonment.
So that's just requiring us to say we're not going to and write a letter we all agree on, and then,
It would be recorded in the public record so that any future buyers of the property would know they could never build there.
on the 10 feet there.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Cosmo.
So I don't necessarily see the need for specifically a conservation easement because there's nothing there. It's leaves on the ground. So, I mean, it's one thing if there was a hedge there, right? Because then it would be, the hedge was conserved. If I had it my way, which we're not allowed to do, I would condition this that they would have to plant cocoa plum or something up along that fence to add to the buffering. So, I mean, at this point, it's on them to do that, but I wouldn't think that they would want all the school activity right on their backyard either. So I'm sure that eventually they would want to plant something there anyways.
Oh, we plan on doing that.
Yeah.
Definitely
And I
doing.
think that was in the application too. We said we wanted to put a fence up and plant landscaping along the
An
fence.
opaque fence, right? Like a fence you can't see through.
Right.
Right.
Yes,
Privacy
privacy fence, definitely.
That seems reasonable.
Well, I was going to say, everyone is reasonable. And if you're not rushing to pull the trigger to build something, then it sounds like, and completely your decision, but perhaps you guys should get together and talk and see what you can come to terms on. I think completely up to you guys, though.
Madam Chair, Mr. and Mrs. Carter, I know your last name's not Carter, sir. But perhaps if I could suggest if you wanted to continue tonight's public hearing, I think March 3rd would be a bit aggressive. We could continue it to March 17 to 6 p.m. or as soon thereafter as possible. That way we don't have to incur the cost of additional advertising.
Right.
But that's certainly up to you.
You want to do that? Sure. Okay, that sounds good.
Okay. All right, very good. So we are going to postpone this item.
Continue this item. Staff would recommend that the board continue this item to March 17th at 6 p.m. or as soon thereafter as possible. And we would request that the Carters and the school board or whomever are the appropriate parties to get together and possibly come up with some sort of an agreement that they could bring back with them, or you could provide to me and I can make it part of the package so that when we come back, it may not be as much back and forth conversation.
And excuse me, who will I be speaking to that I'm allowed to speak to?
This is our board.
Because if that was the email, I was not supposed to speak to anyone.
Well, yes, you can respond to that email that you responded to, and she's hopefully you're able to speak with her. So if you have questions, you can.
Madam Chair.
All right, and then,
I'd like to motion to continue this item to March 17th at 6 p.m. or soon thereafter.
do I have a
I'll second
second? We have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair, I have a question for clarification. You understand, all of you, right, they're a part of this plat, you're not. We can't condition and take away 10 feet. They have to be given the whole 50 feet. We do right-of-way abatements all the time. And so basically, because you can't be getting lawyers involved in all of this, it's going to be not cost-effective to do that. So basically, the board is saying for y'all to get together and just have some type of an agreement that you're going to have a 10-foot landscaping buffer up there with your fence or whatever that you're not going to build on, and you're willing to put that in writing so that it can be filed basically with the clerk of court or read into this to protect them from moving forward should somebody else come in there and take over the property when you're dead and gone.
Okay.
Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Cosby.
And not to belabor this or confuse it, but I mean, a 10-foot wide landscaping buffer, I know that's probably not what you're intending, but just to have more screening between the properties would be what I think we're all kind of talking about. They already stated they probably won't keep, maybe you'll keep the chain link fence and add a privacy fence behind it, but to have some sort of additional landscaping on top of that would be nice.
Okay.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
Give everyone a second to clear out.
Yeah.
I like those. They're like the only ones that actually taste it.
It's freezing in here.
They need free cola with like caffeine.
I think they're good fans, right? They have less right? I'm like, we're in great hands.
I just wanted to say thank you to all of you.
Thank you, Ms. Carter.
So much.
Appreciate it. All right, and that concludes our public hearings. Moving on to our regular agenda, sending it over to our county attorney.
County Attorney Catherine Barbieri, the first item before you is a resolution ratifying the decision of the Public Safety Director's declaration of local emergency on the county minister's order banning open-air burning in St. Lucie County on February 6th. We declared the local state of emergency and at the request of the Fire Chief of St. Lucie County Fire District due to the drought conditions in St. Lucie County. And so at this time, staff is recommending the board approve the resolution ratifying the Public Safety Director's declaration of emergency and the county administrator's order banning open air burning in St. Lucie County. This ban is still in effect, and you will probably continue to see these on most of your board agendas going forward for a little while.
Madam Chair.
All right, Commissioner Cosby.
Yeah, this I have a lot of friends that do burns in their yards, and we've seen recently a lot of fires started. There's a lot of dead plant material out there, a lot of dead grass, and the fire catches on it. So I'd love for our Eric Gill and award-winning communication staff to maybe do some more. I know you have been, but just maybe a little bit more out there on it, because it's something that's really important.
So we can certainly push that message out. We can't force people to comply, but
I know.
I wish I could.
That's right. We will not comply. That's right. But, if we don't need a public comment, I would motion for approval.
We do not.
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 2.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner
I'd like to
Townsend.
go ahead and make a motion for item number 2. It's a no-brainer. It's already in there at Sunset. I think we all support it, and the other cities and everybody has gotten along, so the permission to advertise.
Madam Chair, I do, I appreciate that. I did, though, have to put in 2 options for the ordinance. I need to know which one the board is inclined. The first option, the main difference is in the title. We have to watch the numbers on title and on, in the thing. We do not have public safety in there. The second option has in the title public safety. So we are asking you to look at these 2 options and tell me which either A or B ordinance you would like me to bring back to you for a public hearing.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, for context, the first one that you see, option A, is similar to the one that we did, that the county did in the beginning, that talked about the half-cent sales tax. The second item, the option B, was some revised language suggested by the city of Port St. Lucie with the addition of public safety, and we just want to let you make the call on that. We've vetted it both through the consultant and, and it appears that the closest we can keep to the original, the better we are, because that shows what we've done. So that's what's in option A, but again, it's your call on option A or option B on what you want to advertise.
And just to clarify, it's page 4 of 6 of each ordinance. It's the official ballot language, and you'll see the strike through and underline language from the prior iteration.
My motion was for option A because it's already known, people know about it, and believe me, they've done their homework, and I think if we go and add something, it's going to muddy the water. Not that we don't need more money for public safety, but I don't want to take any chances because the first time this went through, it failed. And it was because the language was wrong and they didn't identify the cities in it, and people don't realize they live in St. Lucie County. And so making it clear that the cities had to be identified in the ordinance, and we got there, and there's only so many words that you can use in an ordinance and going out to the ballot. So we're better off, in my opinion, to just leave it the way it is.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Cosby.
So my question, first of all, I support option A of the 2 options, but I have questions about the addition of and green spaces. I want to make sure that this infrastructure sales tax is being used for roads and sidewalks, primarily roads. So what exactly do we mean by green spaces? Are we going to be acquiring land?
So green spaces are prominently could be used for stormwater, because obviously we always have flooding issues, right? So we could acquire land to increase stormwater capabilities, stormwater cleaning, things of that nature. Obviously, you can interpret, the board can interpret it however they want to interpret it, but that was our intent about the green spaces, that we would be looking to where, if, as we talked about, this is clean water, better roads, better sidewalks, so that could be at, but again, we're at the discretion of the board. If you want to remove that word, we're okay with that as well.
I do like the phrase better roads, lower taxes. Now with the green spaces addition, we will, or with the whole thing, we're going to get a list of approved projects that we will be able to vet. So if it's too green space heavy, we will have a chance to comment on that. Is that right?
Absolutely. Staff is already preparing a list through Public Works in terms of the types of projects they would like to present to you. Then ultimately you would approve that list, and that infrastructure sales tax committee actually monitors that from that point forward.
Has there been any polling or research done to determine the likability of this to be adopted?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, Eric's been kind of heading it up for us on our side, as well as the communication folks from each of the cities, so I'll defer that to Eric as you don't.
For the record, Eric Gill, Communications Director. Commissioner Clasby, to answer your question, yes, we have done some polling. Both the city of PSL did polling to their residents, and then we did polling through Vancouver Jones, who helped us 6 years ago when we launched this initiative, or 8 years ago. And yeah, it wasn't in what Steve refers to as an anchor. It's something that brought the polling down or the likelihood of it passing. Adding green spaces was not an anchor. It wasn't as much as of an elevator as roads and sidewalks, but it definitely wasn't a deterrent. And again, as Mr. Landry said, I think it's more when PSL looks at green spaces, they're thinking about STAs or stormwater treatment areas that can also be used as passive recreation, not necessarily athletic fields,
I'd offer a second.
I'm sorry, we have a motion.
I have a motion for option A.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, with that, Planning and Development Services. Almeria. This is quasi judicial. Commissioner Clasby, I'll start with you.
On item B1, I have spoke with staff on this and not the applicant.
Commissioner Lowry.
Corey and Ben, and we talked about tree mitigation, the zoning, all things to be.
I myself also was just Corey and Ben and reviewing some of the design and tree preservation. Commissioner Lee.
Staff, Corey and Ben.
Commissioner Townsend.
Staff.
All right. Guys are up.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, for the record, Thad Crow, Senior Planner, Planning Development Services Department. This is a major site plan which goes straight to you, does not go to the Planning and Zoning Commission. One hearing matter. There are no public notice requirements for major site plans. This is a shot of the property in question. Located in White City, east of US 1, just north of the Tropical Isles Mobile Home Park, south of the Ruhlman subdivision. It is within the urban service boundary. Water and sewer are available. It is an infill site, more or less. Future land use map shows the transition of intensity from the US 1 corridor, which is mostly in the city of Fort Pierce, eastward toward Indian River Estates and lower density neighborhoods to the east. This is what we would call kind of a transitional area of medium density residential land use. And in terms of zoning, it's similar, serving as a transitional area between the US 1 corridor and neighborhoods to the east. You can see that 5 units per acre, the RS4 to the north 4 units per acre, so it's a little bit medium density, a little bit higher. This map and north is to the right, so it's a little confusing, but you're looking at US 1 and you can see the RS4, RS3, RS3 categories that dominate the area here in this part of White City. RM5 is assigned to properties in this area as well. So a little bit about the site plan, the major site plan in question. It is about 13 acres with proposed 64 units. That's just below the 5 units per acre maximum. And of these units, 42 are 1-story, and you can see from the site plan, those are the bigger ones, the 1-story, and 22 units are 2-story. It is 18% building coverage. You can see the main entrance is at the top to Smallwood Avenue, and over on the left, an emergency access that goes also to Smallwood Avenue. On the left-hand side, you can see there is a approximately 2-acre wetland that would be preserved. East of that wetland is a dry retention area of around 1 acre. And also the yellow area is a central recreation area, which would include a wellness center, dog kid park, pickleball courts, paddle courts, outdoor workout equipment, and picnic tables and lounge chair. The internal street essentially is a kind of a U that provides dead-end T turnarounds on each end. This is a kind of a, and it's important to note, I'm not sure that I mentioned it, but these are essentially what we call horizontal multifamily. They can be bought or sold, but they are condominiums in the sense that they own the buildings. The common area is not owned by the individual lot building owners. This is kind of a blow-up of the planned trash receptacle areas that could be commonly used by residents, convenient, to be screened. I think one of our conditions speaks to screening these areas to provide for convenient and safe pickup. What is unique about this site? It is heavily wooded. and much of it would be cut. The site plan that you see essentially preserves on the western part there the 2 acres of wetlands and trees within them. All 5 oaks on the property are either going to be preserved or relocated, as well as palms, all palms as well. However, you can see the laurel oaks and the live oaks will pretty much be taken out. We use the word clear cut, but they will be taken out. They would not be relocated. And if you go back to the site plan, that whole area with the homes, essentially, there will be fill brought in, and of course the trees can't survive with the fill. So the applicant has indicated that they would be taking out all those trees pretty much, except for the wetland area. There are a lot of laurel oaks, and they kind of get a bad rap sometimes, but laurel oaks in urban areas don't do as well, but when they are in groves or in the woods, they can live longer, and they are valuable for fast-growing shade trees, and there's an important food source. Slash pines as well provide quality habitat for wildlife, including nesting for woodpeckers. They produce seeds for birds and small mammals and help stabilize soil. So just recognizing the importance of what would be removed of these laurel oaks and slash pines, 284 trees. We have to look at this like everything else in light of the comprehensive plan. It is in keeping with certain things, and other things it's not. It is in keeping with the future land use designation, the preservation of wetlands, the green development materials and principles, the unique housing type, this horizontal multifamily condominium variety. However, the major thing it does not come up to speed with is tree preservation, habitat preservation in the site plan design, which our comprehensive plan is fairly strong on. So it is supported by a number of objectives and policies, including anti-sprawl that pays for itself and incorporates those green development principles, requires central utilities, access by internal streets. Once again, the preservation of natural resources and habitat is not achieved with the site plan that you are seeing in this version. Land Development Code, looking at this application in terms of the Land Development Code, it does meet all LDC dimensional development standards. No waivers have been requested, therefore a PUD is not required. It's straight zoning, of course, RM5. But the important language that our friends at ERD interpret, and they are here tonight, is LDC section 60005A1 to microsite impervious surfaces to protect native vegetation or provide details why you can't do it, essentially. We don't believe that the applicant has done this and has not really demonstrated why they can't do it. These developments, these units are spread out and they kind of sprawl through the site, and they in and of themselves require the removal of trees. So we believe that the care and attention has not been made to provide for preserving some habitat, as our comp plan, our land development code strongly encourage and require in some cases. We look at the effect on nearby properties. There would be, with the 64 units, producing about 440 new daily trips on Smallwood. Pretty much all that traffic is going to US 1, 95% of it. Half of them go north on 1, half of them go south. And the issue, as you can see in these pictures right now, is Smallwood does not connect. It is now a dead-end street on each side. So that street will become a through street between Regina and US 1. The wildlife habitat would be, of course, impacted. The buffering requirements would help visually screen the development from surrounding properties and from the Smallwood Avenue right-of-way. This is a little hard to see, but this is the traffic pattern, and it's pretty simple. People are going either north or south on US 1, and to get there, they have to go over on Smallwood. There's a small 5% group of them that use Regina on the right-hand side there, up to Midway and back. This is a blow-up of that. And essentially, it's important to spend a little time here because you're probably familiar. We presented a number of projects where the US 1 median, I don't want to say wreaks havoc, but it does create some awkward turning movements and through flow, traffic flow. In this case, the median on US 1 really, we believe will steer people going south on US 1 to turn on Melton Drive, which is the street north of Smallwood, as that has a turn lane, a designated turn lane. Smallwood does not. So essentially, if they don't take that left on Melton, they will be traveling further south and making awkward U-turns on US 1 and going north back to Smallwood. So we believe that the traffic will be making that trip. And the traffic coming from the south on US 1, of course, would just turn right on Smallwood and continue to the site. And again, there is that small group of folks in Regina, 5%, who use that to get up to Midway and back. Adequacy of public facilities is another criterion. Smallwood is substandard. You can see on the right, it's got not a very good surface. It's substandard width. It doesn't have sidewalks, and it dead ends. There is the fire station nearby, fire station number 6, which you can see on the bottom, and there are multiple public schools nearby, close by. So it is an appropriate location for an infill project like this in terms of adequacy of public facilities. Environmental impacts, and I think this is really one of the flags that we see on this one. They're losing a lot of protected trees and habitat, so it puts the applicant in the position of either having to pay a whole bunch of money for tree mitigation or preserve more trees. They have chosen the route so far of that tree mitigation payments. We have encouraged them strongly to preserve more trees, which would reduce their cost of development. And again, the design is not conducive for tree preservation, so we have recommended modifying design to preserve trees. And the applicant, to their credit, they've been working with us, they've been understanding and listening to us, and I feel like we've made progress. For our findings and recommendations, we have reviewed the site plan and determined it generally conforms to the review standards. We do recommend that the County Commission evaluate the proposed development, consider the standards of review and conditions, and approve the major site plan, authorizing the chair to sign documents approved by the county attorney, subject to the following conditions, along with any other conditions that you may deem appropriate. First of all, and I think most importantly for us, the site plan shall be modified to strategically preserve existing native trees, and we have set a benchmark of around 1,000 dBH inches to achieve that avoidance and minimization that is called for from the Comprehensive Plan and Land Development Code. Secondly, we want more details in the site development permit on how the trash receptacle screening, access, and maintenance plans. A little bit of concern about the solid waste pickup, but we feel that can be provided in the site development permit stage. 3, and this is from our friends at the ERD, prior to commencement of development, a tree mitigation plan is required. An executed conservation easement for that wetland area is required. And of course, a vegetation tree removal permit is required. Public Works Department, site development permit required prior to site improvements, and this would involve the improvements of Smallwood to the project entrance, sidewalk installation, and utility extensions. Property acquisitions, we are requiring a 10-foot right-of-way along the frontage of Smallwood Avenue to be determined by the Public Works Department. That concludes our presentation. The applicant is here, and I believe they are here, and they have a presentation. Now, I understand this is the regular agenda, so it's at your discretion whether you would like to hear. It is a brief presentation, so it's up to you whether you want to hear it, Madam Chair. And happy to answer any questions. We have our ERD and, of course, our planning manager here, too.
Okay. Any questions of the board at this time, at this point? What's the flavor of the board? I will ask your opinion on this. Would we like the applicant to come up, or do we want to just discuss and make a decision?
I would like to have the applicant come up.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners. My name is Josh Nichols with Schmidt Nichols, and thank you for the opportunity to do a quick presentation. Mr. Crow went through everything very, very thoroughly, so I won't belabor some of those issues. Thank you. But I do want to go over some of the fun things and some of the pretty pictures that I think, and talk about some of the benefits of the project. So again, Schmidt Nichols, we're land planners and landscape architects. We're representing Efficient Developers Group, and this is Almeria Residential. So first want to start off the site, as Mr. Crow said, about 12.88 acres. We're about a quarter mile south of Midway, east of US Highway 1 on Smallwood Avenue. And as we saw in the picture, Smallwood Avenue is impassable actually. So we're taking that on as part of this project that from our east property line all the way to US 1 is Smallwood's getting redone. So we're going to have new swales, new pavement, the whole road's being redone as part of this project. And it is an infill project. So there are, I know it sounds like from what you're hearing from staff, almost everything has been addressed. No waivers. We're not doing anything other than the trees. And unfortunately, or fortunately, it's a heavily vegetated site, but we're trying to do some good here for first home buyers and from a sustainability standpoint. So currently it's vacant, access off of Smallwood. The current future land use allows for 9 units an acre, which would be about 115 units. So we're about 50 units less than that. And that's based on our zoning and what we're proposing at 64. Here's just a site plan rendering so you can see that. Showing the 64 units, we have our 2-acre wetland area that's kind of cordoned off to the side so that can be protected. We've got a dry detention area. We've got pickleball, paddle, and a wellness center. So everything, all these units, as you can see on the roofs, all have solar panels and they all have battery packs. So they're trying to make this a net zero so that those new homeowners will have much less expenses as overhead. So that's kind of the point. They've done a couple of these developments around the state, and so they're trying to bring this efficient, sustainable design into St. Lucie. So again, site plan, I'll go quickly through these with the wetland area, dry detention, our access point, and we also have a fire access point that's just for emergency only. Smallwood Avenue, as I mentioned, 1,900 feet would be improved all the way out to Federal. Ooh, I think I skipped one there. So we have 2 models in here. One is the Valentine, which is a one-story unit. So again, very like modern architecture, easy, simple to maintain. They want these to be for new home buyers and small, families that are startup. So this is kind of one of their one-story model. That's an inside interior look. And then you've got the Doris, which is a 2-story model. You can see some of those. Also, again, when we talk about sustainable design, so they've won awards for this design. So a lot of it is from these new materials that they put together. The walls all come kind of pre-done, so all the wiring, all the runs are all in it, so they can build these very quickly. Green certified homes, you're going to have 40% less energy consumption with these. So again, all these things that they're trying to do sustainable, we know the trees is a big part of sustainability, but we can't do everything. So we're trying to make the best as we can for an infill site. And so with that, I just wanted to say that we've been working very closely with staff on the conditions. The one condition, which was that first one about the 1,000 dBH of the trees, that would mean in mitigation credits, that would be 500 dBH. So we are committing to complying with that condition. We're looking at alternative water management systems where we can underground some of that water and be able to preserve those trees. So we are committing to meeting that 1,000 dBH. So we still do have to mitigate some, absolutely. We can't turn our blind eye to that, but we will commit to doing that 1,000 dBH on site. So with that, we're really excited for the project and hope we can get your approval tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Townsend.
Is each unit going to have 2 parking spots out front?
Yes.
Okay, and what
guest.
is the width of the driveway?
Well, they're actually, let me go back to, so it's actually a parking tract. So these are condo ownership,
right?
But to look and feel like a single family development. So it's a parking tract and you park off of that, but each person's going to have 2 designated spaces and guest spaces. So we've tried to, as you can see, we've tried to balance those around the site and created green spaces between all those areas.
That's what I was looking at, and I was like, I didn't quite understand. Okay,
yeah, yep.
That's all I needed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Lowry.
Question for you.
Yes.
Is the developer advertising approximately $480,000 for these units?
I believe that's the number, yes.
And we're saying this is affordable for St. Lucie County?
It seems it's in all of South Florida. It's getting more and more expensive. I know, but some of these, like just with when we talk about the the tree mitigation. It's over $1 million in tree mitigation. So these costs have to be consumed somewhere, but we're trying to do other things to bring those numbers down.
Okay, thank you.
And I assume you guys have been out to this neighborhood, right? So you know that what you're proposing does not match what's there at all. You're putting in a product that is not cohesive with the existing residents. Now, this is unfortunately one of those things for people that are watching. They are doing basically a by right build under the current zoning at 4.97 dwelling units per acre, which is 5 is what is permitted. And they're not platting it, so we don't have as much leeway as we normally do. We do have a little bit. Question for my team. In the staff report, page 10, it says, a sidewalk along the project's frontage on Smallwood Ave is planned. However, the right-of-way is not sufficient to provide a bikeway in accordance with LDC section 7.05.04.b.1. So does that mean we're giving that they should by right be constructing a bike lane, but that there's not room and that we're not holding them to it? Is that the way I'm reading that?
Madam Chair, members of the board, and we'll queue up that section of the LDC of 70504, which essentially identifies that when developments and are reconstructing a roadway to serve as access where it's appropriate and logical to install a bike way or bike lane, that be provided. As this body can understand, we don't have a substantial amount of designated bikeways that are on county roadways that aren't arterial roadways. In our local, more residential areas, we have things like the Sun Trail and some pockets of the Greenway and Trails links, but this is a provision that I think there's been a lot of discretion afforded to the county engineer over time as to whether or not it links to safe bikeways and trails. So in this instance, as part of the design to reconstruct Smallwood Avenue for just over basically a third of a mile from US Highway 1 to the east, they are proposing a sidewalk for a portion along their frontage, but not the installation of a bike lane.
Okay, and then again, I know improvements to Smallwood. Has the team advocated for any improvements to Milton or Regina, or has the traffic impact report triggered those?
And so, Madam Chair, members of the board, the traffic report that was submitted by the applicant and reviewed by a third party, it identified a distribution that I think that locals would probably contest. It suggested, of course, that 95% of the trips would utilize Smallwood Avenue, which is logical, but only 5% would head north to Midway Road without utilizing US Highway 1. And it identified Wallace Street, which is all the way to the east, as opposed to Regina Drive, which is offsetting their access point. I would suggest that Regina Drive would be the more prominent route than Wallace Street. Whether it holds to the 5% distribution that's assigned, or potentially closer to 10 or 15% if folks are headed east to Indian River Drive, or to some of the non-residential uses along Midway Road. There's a fire station, there's a daycare center, church, and a few different destinations there. And folks might wish to utilize that as a safe route to head south on US Highway 1. That said, as we've depicted in this exhibit, we do think that folks returning from the north, whether they're coming from I-95 east on Midway Road and then south on US 1, or coming back from Fort Pierce or headquarters here downtown, that they would utilize a portion of Melton and either a portion of 3rd Street or Regina south. So we do expect more trips on those roadway segments beyond what the traffic report indicated. We do have a provision in our land development code that looks for site plan tier projects to provide paved access. The applicant is proposing to reconstruct Smallwood Avenue as depicted here in orange. At this time, there's not a proposed proportionate fair share contribution for those other roadway links that would be impacted. As this color palette is trying to indicate, Regina Drive is paved generally to county standards down to Notlum Drive, but there's probably a 0.17, 0.18 mile section. Let me verify my notes because I had a couple different segments measured out. 0.14 miles there of Regina Drive from Notlum south to the access that's substandard. So that could certainly be a discussion point if that's an appropriate improvement linked to this project, given the quantity of units and trips that might originate or utilize that section, or a proportionate fair share can be considered.
Can you zoom back out a second, Corey, to where perfect? So this area also doesn't have drainage. Actually, within this last year, we all signed off on allowing a feasibility study to see how we can get drainage in this area. Hosbine Lake, reason why I asked Corey to zoom out, this lake right here, gotta love District 4 and all its weird nuances. So that is Hosbine Lake, and believe it or not, that lake is in private ownership. That lake, at this point, we put out a pump several times a year so that when we have heavy storms, if there's a state of emergency, we can pump that water out into the drainage system and also ultimately into that canal there. I think it's Canal 22. Right, so that's an issue. Now you're increasing traffic along Regina, where at least probably 3 or 4 times a year we've got a pump running to try to pump out that water. Again, if you've been out there, one house has a culvert and a swale, another one has absolutely nothing. So I obviously have serious drainage concerns, especially when I look at my St. Lucie Gardens and everything that's going on there with the development, and I see this as being another problem, development, not understanding the surrounding area. So I think, the team did a great job throughout the report, but I think it says it all on page 14, where they bolded it out for us. The Board of County Commissioners shall require a reduction from the maximum density permitted in the zoning district in which a proposed development is to be located when such allowable maximum density, subsection B, would contravene any goal, objective, or policy of the St. Lucie County Comprehensive Plan. So I would be looking for a reduction in density. And furthermore, 480, 450 is not anything that a regular St. Lucie County resident is going to be able to afford. Furthermore, if you're putting people that like solar panels and Tesla cars, again, if you've been out there, that is not your demographic. You are putting people that are not going to get along next to each other. So, there needs to be a reduction.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Lee?
I would agree with that. You look at Tropical Isles just south of that does have the density that you're looking at, but they have their own driveway in and out. I do agree. I think Regina is definitely going to be the road in and out of there, and it can't handle the traffic now. That whole area has been subject to flooding, as Commissioner Fowler knows. And the density taking out all of the surface there and putting in pervious, and there's only going to create more. I would like to see less density. Quite frankly, I think that'd be a beautiful subdivision to put in acre lots and keep the trees and put in the other homes. I also agree with the 460 some $1,000. They sell the manufactured homes for $150,000. The homes to the north of that are nowhere in that price range. And getting your comps into that area, you're definitely not in with the normal structure in there. Regarding the solar panels and first-time home buyers, all I think about is 15 years when the insurance company says, make a new roof. Now you're spending an extra $17,000 to take it off and put it back on. And of course, you also have the battery expense when they go bad. So I don't see the solar as being a big selling point. I don't see the 470,000 people rushing in there to buy these things when they're next to a manufactured home park. It's $470,000. You can buy stuff out in tradition, 2-bedroom, 2 baths out there. On top of that, what's your HOA going to be? On top of the 470. So again, it's taking it right out of the affordable range, in my personal opinion, creating a density which is going to impact Regina, which we don't need, and I think we're going to have drainage problems when the subdivision all said and done. That's my opinion.
All right.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Clasby?
we don't have to have public comment on this one?
No,
is that
sir,
correct?
it's regular agenda item.
I'm prepared to make a motion for denial based off of what I'm reading in the staff's report. Specifically, page 7, the word "not" is bolded and underlined, and it says that this does not demonstrate reasonable efforts have not been made to meet the intent of Land Development Code Section 6.00.05.A1.
Madam Chair, if I could.
Yes, sir.
Could we have a chance to go back and
Well, I was going to say, Madam Chair.
modify before?
I was just going to say, before we go to vote, Madam Chair, I was going to ask them, since you hear what they're wanting, what they're suggesting, you know that if it's denied, so do you want to pause and postpone this and go back and have conversation?
Yeah.
And come back and see if you can do something that can satisfy the board rather than us moving forward with the denial tonight?
I would like to do that if we could. If we can't get to something, I understand, but if we could get that opportunity, that would be fantastic. I appreciate that.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Clasby?
Wait, Madam Chair, can I finish, please?
Absolutely, sorry.
The other thing that I would suggest, I don't believe this was done. I know that I recommend this every single time, and I kind of sends up a red flag if you don't do it. I understand why perhaps maybe it wasn't done, though. I think every developer coming into our county should have a neighborhood meeting. I think everybody should be able to have to sit down and talk to the neighbors and get them to see what kind of impact they feel you're going to be giving. So I think part of it moving forward as well, I would recommend that you sit down and you have some type of a meeting. There's the White City Improvement Club has stuff done all the time. Open it up to the neighbors and let the neighbors come out and be able to have an opportunity to be a voice in this.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Clasby?
I'd be willing to continue it with the condition that they meet the standard of our neighborhood meetings in the Land Development Code for PUDs and other, which is above and beyond just a normal neighborhood meeting.
And I think he is, he's amenable to that.
Yeah, he just agreed.
Understand. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so does someone want to make a motion to that?
Do we have a date to?
Do we want to set a date, or we want to just
I think,
postpone?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we pause this and we continue it to a date uncertain,
Okay.
allowing the applicant to have time to go back and research and have neighborhood meetings.
So that takes some time. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you. Moving on, we have incentive resolution for Project Orchid.
All right, good evening, Chair Fowler and Commissioners. Item 12B2 is an incentive resolution for a targeted industry project known as Project Orchid. They are a leading manufacturer of architectural glass, windows, and aluminum systems. The company currently serves both residential and commercial construction markets. Katie and Knight and Wes McCurry with the St. Lucie Economic Development Council. They'll begin with a overview of the expansion project, and then I will follow with the specific information pertaining to the incentive resolution.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Wes McCurry with the Economic Development Council. And joining us tonight, we have Katie Knight, our Director of Business Development. We also have Janae Valentine and Andrew Sineni with representatives of Project Orchid. We are extremely excited to be here tonight presenting Project Orchid to you. This is a transformational advanced manufacturing project. It's actually one of the largest job creation projects in recent county history. So this project has the opportunity to be truly transformational for the county and advance manufacturing as a core industry within St. Lucie County. And I'm going to kind of turn it over to Katie and from here to kind of walk you through the details of our quick presentation, and then we can follow up with any questions.
Thank you, Wes. Madam Chair Folder, Commissioners, good evening. Katie Knight, Director of Business Development, St. Lucie Economic Development Council. We also have here with us Maureen Salsar, our Communications Director. On behalf of the Economic Development Council, thank you for the opportunity to present Project Orchid. As Wes mentioned, Project Orchid represents a transformative advanced manufacturing opportunity for St. Lucie County, one that aligns with our target industry strategy, wage growth goals, and long-term economic competitiveness. Project Orchid, an international company, it is a leading manufacturer of windows, aluminum systems, and it is recognized for its advanced production capabilities and operational efficiency, delivering customized, energy-conscious solutions to a broad range of domestic and international market. Project location, they're looking at North Rock Road, that's north of the jail. The proposed location and what we are looking to put there in terms of the key project highlights include a 1.3 million square foot facility with a new building investment of 170 million, equipment investment 140 million, with a job creation of 1,005 jobs, average wage $28.48. Annually, that is $59,238 annually, and this is 116% of the St. Lucie County annual rate. And this project significantly exceeds our community's threshold targets. Once fully operational, Project Orchid will generate 53.8 million in direct annual recurring payroll. This is substantial long-term income circulating through our local economy, and this payroll supports families, retail growth, and secondary job creation throughout the county. Additionally, there will be a one-time construction impact of 207 million, and this construction phase alone will create immediate economic impact stimulus for local contractors, suppliers, and service providers. This is both an immediate and long-term economic driver. What is our ask? Again, advanced manufacturing remains one of St. Lucie County's core target industries, and Project Orchid meet and exceeds our criteria. Our incentive ask tonight is ad valorem tax exemption, or job growth investment grant, impact fee mitigation, and with their aggressive timeline and expedited site plan permitting. This just kind of breaks down our job growth grant and investment. Again, it is imperative to mention that these incentives are performance-based. Project Orchid will be required to meet and maintain these commitments, ensuring accountability and positive return on investment for the county. This structure is designed to protect the counties while promoting economic growth. And in closing, Project Orchid, again, Wes mentioned transformative opportunity that aligns with our long-term goal. Wes and I are here. Thank you for your time. Wes and I, and along with Andrew and Janae, can answer any questions you may have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Public Works, Eastwood Canal, final acceptance.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner,
because this is the final acceptance and this is a completed project, I'll make a motion to approve.
okay, motion to approve.
I also would like to point out, though, I want to give kudos to our staff because there was money saved on this project because the design and everything was done in-house. It didn't go out for bid, so they saved us money.
Very nice.
I'll second it.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Madam Chair and members of the board, if you would indulge us, we promise to be extraordinarily brief. We really did want to take an opportunity to just go through this Eastwood Canal opportunity and highlight some of the uniqueness. I'm going to tee it up. Patrick Diane, Public Works Director, here with Dan Zaralik, County Engineer, and Brandon Friedman, who was the project manager for this project. As was covered, the key takeaways for this project are that we had a granting partner. We used the Emergency Watershed Program, which is a subset of National Resource Conservation Systems grant, which helps to restore drainage to the minimum amount necessary to provide for the as-was condition. We did the engineering in-house, we did our own drafting, we did our own survey, we did our own estimates, we did our own takeoffs. We plotted all that, which saved us time with both negotiating with consultants and saved us money by not having to pay consultants to do that. So I wanted to take a bow there. And also we did construction monitoring, so all the inspections, documentation, compliance monitoring, weekly reports, all those things that were required for the grant were met in-house, providing that cost savings back to the residents. And of course, we did have a contingency plan in place for the emergency response. I'll turn it over to Dan and Brandon now to give you a visual walkthrough of the project.
Thank you, Commissioners. As Patrick said, Dan Zaralik, County Engineer for the record. We just want to go through and just kind of give you a visual timeline of the project. In October 9th, of course, is when the tornadoes hit. Milton hit the area pretty hard. On the bottom right, you can kind of see a map that was provided by the National Weather Service. The EF3 tornado, which is the bad one, is the orange line. It goes right through Lakewood Park. And of course, you can see a picture of what the outcome is. October 17th, we went out and started surveying the damage to the canal. In November, a month later, we applied for an NRCS grant. In March, we were given an agreement with NRCS for the grant amount. Our goal was to do as much work as we could do quickly, but then also maximize the amount of money that we could get the federal government to pay for. Again, this is just some typical pictures of what we were looking at. If you're familiar, Eastwood Drive on the left kind of runs up the east side of Lakewood Park. On the other side of the canal, you have the Portofino Shores, Spanish Lakes communities, and then the Lakewood Park Church. The tornado obviously hit those subdivisions pretty hard. And it was really interesting to kind of see what the tornado did in this area. Some of the trees went to the east, some of the trees went to the west. It was very interesting, but heavy damage and a lot of concerned residents about the drainage condition of the canal. Again, some more pictures. The oak tree on the right actually twisted, not just broke, it actually twisted off, which is just crazy. As Patrick alluded, we did the design in-house. In April, we started the design. About 3 months later, we submitted the plans to NRCS to review to get their approval. In July, we advertised for bids. In August, we got 3 bids. The lowest bidder was ELD for $168,410. And then later in August, they were awarded the bid. In September, a month later, we started work. And these are just some pictures of the work that was done out there. You have metal sheeting, trees, all kinds of debris. Some areas were worse than others. Right around the church, you can kind of see in the background, was one of the worst areas out there. And this is basically the process. They went out there, reached the trunks that they could get, kind of grabbed them with the grappler, went out there and cut them up in pieces,
pile them up on the bank. There was also debris in the canal. We had to decide whether it was wind-borne debris or pre-existing debris. So as the contractor came across something that we think probably wasn't for the storm, they separated that into piles, and we had solid waste help us dispose of it. And again, this is the process, basically just taking it out of the canal, putting it on the bank, and then the grappler truck would come by, put it in the trucks to haul it off. There was 4 outfalls from Lakewood Park that drain into this canal. 4 of them were heavily damaged. This is basically a repair of one of those. We put new pipes in, reestablished the bank, and have a much better product now. In December, we got the substantial completion, and then in December 19th, the project was completed. So a very quick project. Just in background, the grant approval took about 4 months. The design took 3 months, and the construction itself only took about 3 months. So a very quick process, but a very successful project. I think the outcome from what we heard from the residents was very good. So thank you.
Madam Chair, I have a comment. So it's quick to you, but not quick to the residents, because I'm sure all of you saw the stuff that was all over social media about, we don't care, the tornado did this, now we're back into hurricane season again. But we know as commissioners, and this being applied for with the grant, that if we would have went in there and started doing the work, we would not have been afforded the right for FEMA refunds or grant funding. And it's something that we as commissioners have to continue to do to educate the community, because we know the process and the residents don't. So when you say quick turnaround, it's not a quick turnaround to the residents. I will tell you from a perspective up here, it's a very quick turnaround, because normally it takes a couple of years. So I'm glad that you did the timeline, Dan and Patrick, because there are people that watch this and they go back and watch it when they can't see it live or whatever. So, that I have a group of people in North County that, like Jamie has, Harding River Estates people, that they don't understand a lot of the process and they get impatient. So I appreciate your patience, because I know you were being blown up too with the phone calls and stuff. And it's not an easy task when you're dealing with government at a higher level that you have no control over. And what you could control, you did in-house to try to expedite it. And we know that. So thank you.
You're welcome. And we did have a contingency plan during this project. If a storm were to come through, we were not finished, we were very ready to get it out of the canal and get rid of it quickly. We just wouldn't have been able to get those federal dollars.
Great job, guys. Looks amazing. All right, Commissioner comments.
Madam Chair, I have one.
Go for it.
So I'm sorry to have to end a meeting that was that I thought was a great meeting, but I do feel that my integrity needs to be protected. And so at the last meeting, I was not here. I was sick. As you can tell, I still have the crud going around. It sounds like you're getting it too. But I do follow protocol and I do follow process. And as a chair of a board, I think that we need to be mindful of the comments that we make to the community. And so when a resident got up there and spoke about Treetop, and then he walked away, you were led to say to him that there's a process to follow, and I didn't follow that process. I take pride in what I do, and I take pride in following the law of order, and I did do that. I requested this to be on an informal meeting 4 months prior to that. I explicitly brought up Treetop. You all were aware of that, and I even said you even have some non-conforming lots in your district as well. There was not a whole lot of conversation. This is something that's been ongoing and ongoing and ongoing. It's brought up all the time. There's a little bit of it, I think, in District 1. It's mainly in our 2 districts. However, I was quite taken back by your comment that I did not follow protocol. So I printed this for you. If you would please pass it down to her. There's one for the record. It was done on an informal meeting 4 months prior to that meeting, and it was the only thing we discussed on the informal meeting. So I pride myself in doing my job, and I was just quite taken back by your comment that I don't follow protocol, because I do, ma'am. So with that said, I'm freezing. It is cold in here, and so I'm leaving. But I just hope moving forward that this can be a new beginning. This has to stop.
So maybe you should rewind it, because I didn't say that you did anything wrong. I said the question is, why hasn't it been brought forward? I never said Commissioner Townsend said. But since you want to go there, Commissioner Townsend, because I do have a copy of the informal where, as a chair of the Tourist Development Council, you decided to blame the four of us for the airport not having commercial service. So please, don't sit up here and try to turn the table.
I did not.
Now,
blame this
what
board
I'm
for
going to
anything.
say really quick about Rick Reed, which I should have done while everyone was here. The reason I didn't answer Rick Reed's call is because the only time he calls me is when he wants to talk about Commissioner Townsend's drama and Mario Wilcox. And the last time he called me, I was getting ready to walk in with a resident for a meeting, and I decided not to call him back because I didn't want to hear the drama. And in fact, prior to that, on 6/3, when he left a message prior to our meeting, Commissioner Clasberry, where you wanted to appoint him, when he called me 4 times that day frantically, which from my understanding and the voicemail that's still on my phone, he talked to all of us. He tried to dissuade you from putting it on the agenda. He tried to get me to not vote for Mario Wilcox. And he flat out told me he also talked to Larry and Commissioner Lowry and dissuaded them and told me how they were voting. So for the public's information, that's why I didn't answer his call, because it is not county work, it is drama.
It's a breach of sunshine. If you
It
can do the conduit from carrying
absolutely
it.
is. It absolutely is. Any other commissioner comments?
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Clasby.
Would anybody else like to go first, actually?
Go ahead.
So I'm happy to report, I sit for the county. You appointed me during reorg. I sit on the Indian River Lagoon Council Board of Directors. And for those people that are probably not watching, but for anybody that is watching.
Actually, lots of people watch.
Okay, good. That board's made up of all of the 5 counties that border the Indian River Lagoon. So that's Volusia County, Brevard County, Indian River County, St. Lucie County, Martin County, the FDEP, St. John's Water District, and South Florida Water Management District. It's a really cool board, actually, to be on. We manage national estuaries, monies, and things like that. So at that meeting, we actually got awarded, we awarded $204,000 to Fort Pierce Utilities Authority for the sole purpose of septic to sewer conversions. It's part of a larger program that they have going on. Really happy about that. At our last joint meeting with Port St. Lucie, I said, hey, you know, I'm going to be lobbying for septic to sewer. I kind of raised my hand when we talked about that. So that's a win in that box, and I hope we can get more. I'd also like to just go ahead and say happy Mardi Gras to everybody. And note that tomorrow marks the beginning of Lent for many Christians around the world. Lent is a 40-day season of prayer, fasting, and reflection leading up to Easter. For those of us that observe it, it's a time to slow down, refocus, and recommit to faith, discipline, and service to others. And I hope it's a meaningful season for everybody that celebrates it.
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair?
Commissioner Lee.
I would like to put a thank you out to Mr. Landry and the staff with the erosion problem we're having out at the beach. You guys are working together with the city of Fort Pierce. I know they appreciate it. We appreciate it. Staff, Mr. Landry, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Lowry.
One quick comment. Recently attended last week the Night to Shine event at the Fenn Center, and I've spoke to a few of my directors in the county here already to commit with me to do this next year. I think it's a fantastic experience, and I'd like to see some more members of the community come out. It's definitely life-changing, and I will plan my life around making sure that I can attend it next year. So I'm going to see more people there from the county. I'll be emailing you.
All right. Mr. Landry, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. The Board of County Commissioners will hold a regular meeting on Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026 at 6 p.m. here in these commission chambers. And also the Board of County Commissioners will hold an informal meeting on Tuesday, March 10th, 2026 at 9 a.m. here in these commission chambers located at 2300 Virginia Avenue. And Eric will close us out with the announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Landry. Don't miss the annual Marine Science in the Morning series hosted by the Smithsonian Marine Ecosystems exhibit at the St. Lucie County Aquarium located at the foot of the bridge on South Hutchinson Island. This lecture series takes place on the third Wednesday of the month through April, starting at 9 a.m. with the doors opening at 8:30. The series is free with general admission into the aquarium. Advanced registration is requested. Space is limited, so people can RSVP by emailing smseducation@si.edu or calling the education office at 772-465-3271. The next event takes place tomorrow, February 18th, as Elizabeth Urban. I'm going to butcher her last name, so we'll just say Elizabeth Urban from the Smithsonian Marine Station. She'll explore the importance of seagrasses in the Indian River Lagoon. And lastly, the St. Lucie County Animal Safety Division is encouraging pet adoption by offering half-price adoption fees for animals highlighted on the county's social media platforms. Adopters must present the featured posts to qualify for the discount. The discount is for specific pets that are featured that week. Residents are encouraged to follow St. Lucie County's social media accounts. We're on Nextdoor, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and Instagram at St. Lucie Gov, and we post weekly updates about the pets that are available for adoption to our animal shelter. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
All right, meeting adjourned. Have a great night, everybody.